in the Baltics. It is the biggest military exercise Lithuania has seen since it joined the bloc. You can head to our website to find out how officials are justifying this massive show of military force right along the Russian border. While you're there, you can check out dramatic footage of a deadly mid-air collision in Italy. This beachside air show rehearsal goes very wrong right there. Full details at rt.com. For now, mankind's first and biggest gateway to space is marking its 60th birthday today. RT's Medina Kochanova reporting now on the secrecy and the breakthroughs of the famous Baikonur Cosmodrome.
Baikonur has been behind dozens of discoveries over the course of its 6 decades. So we thought we'd gather together some of its most historic moments. Top 5 Baikonur firsts. Now, it was from there that the Soviet Union launched Earth's first artificial satellite, Sputnik 1, in October 1957. Ushering in the space era, it was the first man-made object in space. Within a year, the USSR sent up the second satellite. Only this time, it had a passenger, a small dog called Laika. She became the first living creature to orbit the Earth. Then, in 1961, Baikonur sent man into space, 27-year-old Russian cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin. And it was just 2 years later that the first woman entered orbit, Valentina Tereshkova. 4 years later, and another brave leap into the unknown, when cosmonaut Alexei Leonov undertook the first ever spacewalk. Baikonur was also involved in developing the first inhabited orbiting research station in space. It was called Mir, which means world in English. It was the largest satellite in orbit until 2001, when it was succeeded by the International Space Station. But Baikonur hasn't always been celebrated so openly. Its story is peppered with secrets. Building Baikonur was strictly classified. In fact, those involved thought they might have been building a stadium. But it couldn't stay secret for long. In the late 1950s, a U.S. spy plane snapped pictures of the facility. The Netherlands disaster on October the 24th, 1960. A launchpad explosion during a rocket test killed military personnel and engineers. The disaster was suppressed for nearly 30 years. Even today, launches are never scheduled for the 24th of October. In 2013, an unmanned craft crashed seconds after blast-off. This year, failed launches have cost millions of dollars. Baikonur has sure seen its ups and downs, but it still remains the busiest spaceport in history, sending up around 20 rockets into the heavens every year.
It's RT International live from Moscow. Thanks for joining us. Washington may have thought it had all of its money on the winner when it chose Japan, but Max has other ideas and explains it all in today's edition of the Kaiser Report.
Well, they made a very bad calculation in the United States, believing that Japan would continue to dominate the region, and they have a very close relationship with Japan. And the yen is the second most highly traded currency in the world. But unfortunately, China, India, Russia, the BRIC nations are becoming much more important than Japan. And so the U.S. really backed the wrong horse. So they're the big losers in all of this. And the BRIC nations they don't want to do business. That's why Russia, China, and these other countries are creating their own forex market, their own debit card, their own visa, their own financial systems, their own rating agencies. They want completely out of the U.S. dollar. And once the world goes from being mostly traded in U.S. dollars to not mostly traded in U.S. dollars, then the U.S. empire is officially dead.
All right, time for a global snapshot here on RT International. Rescue teams are searching for survivors from a passenger ship carrying more than 450 people. It capsized in the Yangtze River in southern China. So far, only 12 survivors have been rescued, 5 bodies recovered. And the boat capsized after running into a cyclone. It happened at night, and most of the passengers were believed to be asleep in their cabins at the time. The captain and chief engineer who survived are now in custody. Dozens of protesters have rallied in New York's Grand Central Station against the death of a transgender woman by NSA security guards. Activists were carrying signs against police brutality with pictures of Mia Hall, the unarmed black woman shot dead in Baltimore at the end of March. Education workers in Mexico attacking a building of the National Electoral Committee and burning ballots for the upcoming midterm election. Protesters tried to burn the building down before the firefighters arrived. Organizers of the rally say the Union of Education Workers is strapped for cash while the state is heavily spending on elections. Thanks for joining us here on RT International. Up next, Erin Aid guiding us through the maze of the financial world of headlines. Boom bust to shed some light in just a moment.